Level 1. Intake Guard. The blast door seals behind you at 6:14. The sound is not loud. That is what stays with you. Not a slam, not a warning, just a soft hydraulic lock. Like the building decides you belong to it now. A red line glows across the floor. A speaker in the ceiling says, "Hold position for biometric confirmation." You stand still in a fresh gray uniform with security trainee stitched above your left pocket, a plastic badge hanging from your collar, and a sidearm you are not yet trusted to load without supervision. The corridor smells like bleach, machine oil, and recycled air. No windows. No clocks, just polished concrete, cameras in black domes, and a checklist already longer than your confidence. At level 1, you guard doors. That sounds simple until you understand what the doors are for. You learn the first rule before breakfast. You do not ask what is inside a sealed chamber, unless your clearance allows the answer. You learn the second rule by 0920. If a scientist tells you to open a door without the correct code phrase, you keep it shut, even if the scientist outranks you in every normal way that matters. Inside this site, rank bends around containment. Security answers to procedure first, people second. You stand 12-hour shifts outside, holding cells marked with color bands. Green for low concern, yellow for restricted interaction, red for problems nobody describes in full sentences. Each door has a small panel. Temperature, pressure, occupancy, internal camera health. You watch numbers more than faces. That is how they start changing you. Not with heroics, with discipline. You stop thinking of rooms as rooms. They become threat profiles. Door 3A is not a door. It is a steel boundary between you and an entity that imitates voices. Corridor E12 is not a hallway. It is a buffer zone where no one is allowed to blink during transport drills. The white ceramic mug on a researcher's desk is not a mug until paperwork proves it is only a mug. At lunch, a senior guard named Mendez tells you to keep your wedding ring in your locker. You say you are not married. He says, "Good, then keep it that way." Nobody laughs. At 1843, an alarm chirps once in the East Wing. Not a full-site alarm, just a localized alert. Two officers jog past you in black helmets and sealed vests, faces flat, movements practiced. 10 seconds later, your headset crackles. Maintain post. Do not look into test chamber 4. That is the moment you understand. The real currency here is not bravery, it is compliance. You obey. You keep your eyes on the opposite wall for 4 minutes and 11 seconds. Your neck burns with curiosity. Your palms sweat through issued gloves. When the all clear comes, nobody explains what happens in the chamber. Nobody needs to. Your restraint is part of the test. At level 1, you still think the site is a workplace. By the end of the month, it feels more like weather, constant, inhuman, total. Level 2, corridor officer. Your first live transfer begins at 2:07. The order comes through on a blue-coded tablet. Escort Team Bravo. Humanoid anomaly. Cell block C to interview. Suite 2. 4 officers. 1 medic, 1 researcher, 1 sealed route. Total transit window. 6 minutes. Now you do more than stand still. You move things from one locked place to another. That makes you useful. You wear heavier armor now. Matte black with a neck guard and integrated radio. And your badge changes from gray to blue. Corridor officers handle motion. Motion is risk. Every turn is a calculation. Every intersection is a vulnerability. The site map lives in your head by week 3. Freight lifts, dead-end halls, blind corners, fallback checkpoints, emergency shutters. You learn how respect works in motion. The lead escort gives commands. The rear officer watches hands. The medic watches breathing. The researcher pretends to be in charge until the route crosses a red threshold. Then security owns the hallway. The anomaly looks ordinary. That disturbs you more than the strange ones. It wears white restraint cuffs and smiles at everyone by name. It thanks you for your professionalism. It asks whether your mother still calls on Thursdays. You do not answer. Mendez hears it through the headset and says, "No engagement." You keep moving. That is another rule. The dangerous things rarely look dangerous when they want something. By now, you stop taking your uniform home in a visible bag. You stop telling friends you work nights at a government facility. You stop answering questions that start with, "So what do you actually do in there?" The less language you use for your life, the easier the life becomes to manage. You are proving usefulness now. A chemist forgets her passphrase outside a yellow door and asks for a favor. You refuse. She insults your intelligence. You refuse again. 20 minutes later, your lieutenant tells you the chemist is being evaluated for mimetic compromise. Your refusal goes into your file as positive judgment under pressure. That file starts to matter more than sleep. At level 2, mistakes do not always kill you. Sometimes they follow you in paperwork instead. A missed checkpoint time, a camera angle left unchecked, a transfer log, signed 30 seconds late. Small errors accumulate like hairline cracks in glass. You stop seeing procedures as bureaucracy. They become ritual. Ritual becomes identity. You tell yourself, that means you are becoming professional. What it really means is the site is teaching you to trust the system before yourself. Level 3, Escort Specialist. They let you into the inner ring at 2331. Not the deepest part of the site. Not yet, but far enough that every door has 2 readers, and every corridor has an automated turret recessed in the ceiling behind armored shutters. Far enough that the personnel elevator requires retinal scan, hand geometry, and a code that changes every 6 hours. At level 3, you are trusted with living problems. Escort specialists handle high-value transfers, research protection, and emergency relocation during partial breaches. You work with names now. Dr. Vale Incognito Hazards, Dr. Shu in Temporal Containment, Director Soren on inspection days. You notice the scientists stop seeing you as furniture. They start seeing you as survival. That changes the way they talk to you. Their fear becomes quieter. A specialist's job is precision, under rules that conflict. Protect the researcher. Protect the route. Do not fire in contaminated zones unless authorized. Do not break line of sight during mirrored transport. Do not touch dropped objects in anomalous transit lanes. Do not respond to your own voice if it comes from behind you. The site teaches through repetition, until repetition feels holier than instinct. One night, you escort a sealed steel case from Sublevel 3 to Archive Vault K. The case weighs 82 kilograms. It hums softly through the gloves when you steady the gurney. The paperwork says only, auditory hazard, indirect exposure threshold, unknown. Midway through Corridor 9, you hear your brother's voice from inside the case, asking why you never visit. You do not look at the medic. You do not slow down. That earns trust. And it costs something. Afterward, in debrief, a psychologist asks whether the voice affects you emotionally. You answer, negative. That is not true. But truth becomes complicated here. You learn to report only the portion of yourself the system can tolerate. Your badge changes again. Blue to black. Access expands. So do consequences. You now carry override keys for 3 cell blocks and emergency codes for gas suppression in 2 sectors. Officers below you stand straighter when you pass. New recruits watch how you clear corners, how you hold silence, how you never turn your head too quickly near reflective glass. You begin to like being watched. That is dangerous. Because reputation inside the site is a leash with polished edges. The better your reputation, the more the site trusts you. The more it trusts you, the more it feeds you situations that erase whoever you are outside the walls. Level 4, Breach Responder. The siren starts at 4:12 and does not stop. Not the soft chime from East Wing. Not the polite alerts from training. This is a full containment breach tone, low and mechanical, pulsing through the floor hard enough to change your breathing. Emergency lights turn the corridor red. Blast shutters descend in sections. Somewhere below, something heavy hits reinforced steel twice. You run toward it. That is level 4. Breach responders do not guard normal hours. You live in sealed ready rooms with weapons lockers, med kits, spare visors, and laminated kill box maps clipped to the wall. You sleep in 90-minute fragments with one ear open. Your unit responds when containment fails, when a checkpoint goes dark, when a research team misses 3 consecutive status calls. This is where courage stops mattering. Training matters. Timing matters. The ability to function inside fear matters. You enter Sector D behind a ballistic shield team. Visibility is poor. Sprinklers hiss. One camera feeds static. Another shows an empty hall with a wheelchair rolling by itself at impossible speed. Command gives clipped instructions through your earpiece. Lock Junction 4. Extract survivors from Lab 6. Maintain visual confirmation with Officer Wren. Do not pursue beyond yellow paint marks. You obey until the rules collide. A junior researcher is trapped behind security glass, pounding for help. 40 feet to your right, a containment door cycles half open and half shut, while something unseen presses from the other side. Ren wants the door sealed immediately. The researcher screams that a second team is inside. This is the first real moral fracture. The site says, preserve containment over personnel, unless authorized otherwise. The human part of you hates that sentence on contact. The professional part repeats it anyway. You seal the door. You extract the one you can reach. You leave voices behind reinforced steel because a wider breach kills more than one corridor. No one yells at you later. That makes it worse. Your report is praised for correct prioritization under pressure. Your pulse remains elevated for 11 hours. 3 nights later, you still hear the pounding. Not loud, just rhythmic, like someone knocking from the inside of your sleep. At level 4, you stop asking whether you are good. You ask whether you are effective. The site likes that version of you better. Level 5, Tactical Sergeant. By now, you do not flinch at red lights. You command a squad of 9. 2 shield officers, 1 technical specialist, 1 medic, 5 responders, rotating through shifts that never align cleanly with daylight. Your insignia moves from black to silver. Sergeant. It looks small on paper and enormous in the corridor. Now you do not just survive procedures, you enforce them. You review helmet footage at 7:30 with stale coffee and incident forms stacked in clean piles. You decide who is ready for inner-ring duty and who stays on low-risk posts for another month. You write the language that becomes somebody else's future. Demonstrates calm, fails verbal discipline, hesitates under environmental distortion, reliable, under auditory pressure. Your words become weight. That changes you faster than danger does. One recruit freezes during a live escort when a humanoid subject starts crying like a child, not attacking, just crying. The recruit lowers his weapon a fraction and takes 1 step out of formation. Nothing catastrophic happens. The transfer completes, but the break in posture is real. You see it. So does the camera. He asks you for another chance. You give him reassignment instead. Not because you hate him, because 1 bad second in the wrong hallway becomes 6 body bags and a week of sealed sectors. That is the arithmetic now. Mercy exists, but only if it does not threaten containment. You learn the difference between loyalty and usefulness. Loyalty is what young guards talk about in locker rooms. Useful people last longer. Useful people know when to keep a scientist alive, when to ignore a plea through the glass, when to erase a personal instinct before it becomes a tactical error. Your crew starts copying you. The clipped tone, the spare words, the habit of checking reflective surfaces before open thresholds. Even the way you stand with your hands low and ready, never casual, never tense. Authority is contagious. So is numbness. At home, your apartment stays dark and clean and anonymous. You eat from cartons over the sink. You sleep with blackout curtains sealed tight because normal sunrise feels unreal after too many years, under strip lights and alarms. The site does not just take your time, it edits your rhythms. By level 5, respect reaches you before conversation does, and so does isolation. Level 6, Security Captain. The first time a site director waits for your recommendation, you feel taller, for exactly 3 seconds. Then the burden lands. Captains do not run the corridor. They run the people who run the corridor. 3 sergeants report to you. 46 guards rotate through your schedules. Armory access, transfer windows, breach readiness, disciplinary review, morale management, scientist complaints, logistics failures, ammunition audits, funeral notifications. All of it climbs upward until it reaches your desk. You used to think power means freedom. Here, power means ownership of consequences. A containment technician steals restricted footage and tries to leave with it hidden inside a lunch thermos. Internal Affairs wants a quiet arrest. Research wants to bury the story. Administration wants zero disruption to inspection week. You have 20 minutes to choose a path that protects the site, preserves trust, and does not start a war between departments that already dislike each other. You lock the technician in processing room 2, seize the drive, falsify 1 transit log to conceal the panic window. and brief the director in person at 1940. He calls it decisive. You call it contamination of a different kind. Because at level 6, the moral compromises stop looking like emergencies. They start looking like management. You tell a widow her husband dies in the line of containment duty and cannot be buried publicly under his real assignment. You sign transfer orders that send good officers deeper underground because they perform well under stress. You deny leave requests from people whose faces already look hollow because the site has a staffing gap in red sectors, and the site's needs always sound cleaner than human exhaustion. Your access expands to gold clearance. That opens quiet doors, observation galleries behind one-way glass, executive lifts, archived incident footage from 20 years ago, records of wing closures that do not officially exist. You begin to understand that the site survives, not because it controls everything, but because it decides what counts as acceptable loss. That realization hardens you, and it makes ordinary conversation impossible. Nobody outside can understand why you keep checking ceiling corners in restaurants, why you never sit with your back to a reflective window, why every crowded room feels one bad sentence away from becoming a containment problem. Level 7, Division Chief. Now the site stops feeling like a fortress and starts feeling like a government. Division Chiefs do not carry rifles unless something has gone catastrophically wrong. You carry access, influence, the ability to reroute teams, bury requests, accelerate promotions, delay inspections, and decide which sector gets reinforced doors before budget review closes on Friday. You sit in briefings with medical, research, administration, ethics, and intelligence. Everyone speaks in controlled language. Everyone lies by omission. Everyone needs security when the omission fails. This is strategic power. It is colder than action. You know which doctor breaks under sleep deprivation, and which one becomes reckless when praised. You know which researcher leaks fear by talking faster, and which sergeant hides panic by becoming too formal. You can read a room before anyone opens a file. That makes you valuable. It also makes you dangerous. A classified artifact arrives under blackout protocol. At 3:22, no digital record, hand-carried case, 3 signatures only. The order says temporary storage in an improvised vault. Research argues the vault is inadequate. Administration argues delay creates exposure. Ethics argues for suspension pending review. You decide where the object goes. That is the moment you understand. The real top-level currency is not force. It is authorized risk. You choose a sealed maintenance annex 2 levels below medical, assign 2 hand-picked sergeants, cut camera access to need to know, and inform the director after the move instead of before. The choice works. No breach, no leak, no inquiry beyond a private glance that tells you the director notices your independence. That glance is promotion and warning in the same package. By now, younger officers talk about you the way you once talk about legends from inner-ring security. Calm under breach, never surprised, knows where the real doors are. You hear the rumors and let them grow, because reputation is useful at this altitude. But your life becomes narrower with each gain. Friends disappear from habit. Family becomes administrative risk. Romance becomes leverage, waiting for a file number. You live in secure housing 3 floors below surface access, with 2 guards outside your door who are technically there for protection and functionally there for assurance. The site trusts you enough to watch you constantly. Level 8, Site Custodian. The quiet hour comes at 5:03. Most of the site is between cycles then. Night shift not yet gone. Day shift not yet loud. The corridors hum. Ventilation moves through concrete. Somewhere far below, a reinforced lock engages with a soft metallic click. You stand alone in command glass, overlooking the central operations floor. No armor now. Just a dark uniform with white piping, sight seal on the shoulder, clearance band hidden inside the collar. People speak lower when you enter. They do not bring you problems anymore. They bring you choices disguised as briefings. At level 8, you do not guard anomalies. You guard the system that decides how everyone else faces them. You authorize amnestics. You approve lethal fallback options you hope never trigger. The site passes through you on paper, before it becomes reality in steel. It feels like ultimate control from the outside. Inside, it feels like permanent distance. You know too much to trust comfort. Every smile can be stress. Every request can conceal contamination. Every routine day can crack open at 1416. Because one sealed box moves wrong, or one sentence reaches the wrong ears. You no longer react to alarms with adrenaline. You react with pattern recognition. That might be the final loss. Not innocence, not fear, surprise. You look down at the operations floor and see sergeants carrying out orders with the same clipped tone you once copied from your own superiors. You see recruits at low-risk posts standing too straight, still believing procedure is a ladder instead of a cage with promotions attached. The site owns your judgment now. Maybe it always does. You live inside reinforced certainty, surrounded by cameras, codes, and people who need your decisions more than they know you. You can walk almost anywhere in the facility. You cannot really leave it. At 6:14, a fresh trainee enters Processing Corridor A in a gray uniform with a plastic badge and a sidearm, not yet loaded without supervision. The blast door seals behind him with that same soft hydraulic lock. He looks up at the red line on the floor like it is only a line. You know better. You watch him straighten his shoulders. You watch him tell himself, this is a job, a career, a chance to prove something. He thinks rank means power. He thinks deeper access means greater freedom. He thinks the site rewards strength. It rewards obedience first, then usefulness, then the parts of you that remain after both. The speaker in the ceiling tells him to hold position for biometric confirmation. He does, and the system begins again.